I still remember the first day I met Sarah. It was in the middle of a crowded school hallway, and I was late for class, my bag swinging wildly on my shoulder. I collided with someone, sending my books scattering across the floor. "I'm so sorry," I said, bending down to pick them up. "No, it's okay," a calm voice replied. I looked up and saw her smiling at me, the kind of smile that makes you feel instantly at ease. She helped me gather my books, and we both laughed at how clumsy I had been. That was the first moment I realized she was different from everyone else. She had a way of making chaos feel like comfort. After that day, we started talking during breaks. At first, it was small stuff. Favorite shows, music, what we had for lunch. But slowly we began sharing bigger things. I found myself telling her about my family, my dreams, and even my fears. She listened, really listened, without judgment or interruption. And I felt something I hadn't felt with anyone else before. A sense of trust. We started sitting together in class, working on projects as partners, and even studying together for exams. It wasn't just about sharing tasks. It was about sharing moments. And slowly, the quiet corners of our lives became intertwined. There was something comforting in knowing that, no matter how bad a day I had, there would be Sarah waiting to laugh with me, or just sit in silence beside me. One day, during lunch, I remember her saying something that stuck with me. She said, "Friendship isn't about always having fun together. It's about being there when life feels messy." At the time, I didn't fully understand it, but later I realized she was right. Friendship is messy, imperfect, and yet beautiful because of it. Over the weeks, we started noticing the little things about each other. The way she tapped her pencil when she was thinking. The way I chewed my lip when I was nervous. We could communicate without words sometimes. A glance or a small gesture was enough. It felt like discovering a secret code that only we knew. I didn't know it then. But that first accidental collision in the hallway wasn't just a random moment. It was the start of something that would shape me, challenge me, and teach me the true meaning of friendship. Sarah wasn't just a friend. She was becoming a part of my life, a part I didn't want to imagine losing. Even now, thinking back, I can't help but smile at how something so simple, dropping my books in a crowded hallway, led to the beginning of a bond that would change everything. That was the day my story with Sarah truly began. As the weeks turned into months, Sarah and I grew closer in ways I didn't expect. It wasn't just about laughing at silly jokes or sharing snacks anymore. It was about being there for each other when life got complicated. I remember one afternoon when I was sitting alone in the school library, trying to focus on an assignment, but feeling completely overwhelmed. My mind kept wandering to everything that was going wrong at home, and I felt this tight knot in my chest. Suddenly, I heard a soft voice. "Hey, are you okay?" It was Sarah. She had walked all the way from the classroom to find me. She didn't ask why I looked upset or push me to talk immediately. She just sat down beside me and waited. After a while, I started opening up, telling her about the tension at home, my fears, and how lost I felt. She listened quietly, nodding, sometimes squeezing my hand as if to say, "I'm here." By the time I left the library, I felt lighter than I had in days. That moment made me realize something important. Friendship isn't always about the big gestures. It's about presence, consistency, and caring without conditions. Sarah taught me that. We started spending more time outside school, too. We discovered that we both loved walking in the park, even when it was chilly. And we would talk about everything under the sun. Future dreams, favorite books, embarrassing memories from childhood. Those walks became our little escape from the stress of everyday life. It was during these times that I started thinking of her not just as a friend, but as someone I could truly rely on, someone who made me feel like I belonged. Of course, it wasn't always easy. There were times we disagreed, small arguments about silly things like who got the last piece of cake, or bigger ones about misunderstandings that left me frustrated. But even then, our bond grew stronger because we never let fights linger. We learned to apologize, to forgive, and to be patient with each other. I think that's when I truly understood that real friendship isn't about perfection. It's about effort and care, even when it's hard. One rainy evening, as we shared an umbrella walking home from school, she said something that stayed with me. "You know," she said, "I think the best friendships are the ones that survive the boring days, the fights, the stress, because they're not just for fun, they're for life." I smiled, nodding, because I felt exactly the same. That chapter of our friendship, the one filled with quiet afternoons, long walks, and heartfelt conversations, was a turning point. It was the moment when I realized I had found someone who would walk beside me through both the sunny days and the storms. Sarah wasn't just a friend I enjoyed being around. She was someone who made me feel understood in a way I had never experienced before. And at that moment, I silently promised myself that I would never take her for granted. I used to believe that once you found a true friend, nothing could break that bond. I thought friendship was something strong and unshakable, like a promise that could never be broken. But life has a way of testing what we believe. And Chapter 3 of my story with Sarah taught me that even the strongest friendships can be fragile. It started with something small, a misunderstanding, a message left unanswered, a conversation that felt different from usual. At first, I brushed it off, telling myself I was overthinking, but deep down, I could feel a distance growing between us, like an invisible wall I didn't know how to tear down. One day, I heard from someone else that Sarah had shared something personal about me, something I had trusted her with. My heart sank. I didn't want to believe it, but the words echoed in my mind, replaying over and over again. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept asking myself questions that hurt more than the answers. Was I wrong to trust her? Did our friendship mean as much to her as it did to me? When I finally confronted her, my voice trembled. I wasn't angry, I was hurt. There's a difference. Anger fades quickly, but hurt lingers in your chest, heavy and painful. Sarah looked shocked, then silent. Tears filled her eyes before words did. She explained that things had been taken out of context, that she never meant to betray my trust. But even with her explanation, the damage was already there. After that, things changed. We stopped talking like we used to. No more long walks, no more late-night messages. We sat in the same room but felt miles apart. I missed her presence, but I didn't know how to reach her anymore. Pride, fear, and confusion stood between us. During that time, I learned how lonely it feels to lose someone who is still alive, still nearby, yet emotionally distant. It hurt more than I expected. I realized that friendship isn't just about shared laughter, it's about vulnerability. And once that vulnerability is shaken, rebuilding trust feels terrifying. There were moments I wanted to walk away, to protect myself, to pretend the friendship didn't matter that much. But deep inside, I knew that what we had was worth fighting for. Real friendship isn't proven when things are easy. It's proven when everything feels like it's falling apart. One evening, as I sat alone reflecting on everything, I asked myself a hard question. Am I willing to lose this friendship because of pride? Or am I brave enough to forgive? That question changed everything. Because sometimes, the strongest friendships aren't the ones without problems, but the ones that survive them. Forgiveness doesn't happen in one moment. It doesn't arrive like a sudden wave of clarity or peace. For me, it came slowly, in quiet thoughts, sleepless nights, and honest conversations with myself. After everything that happened between Sarah and me, I realized that forgiving her also meant facing my own fears. Fear of being hurt again, fear of trusting too deeply, fear of losing myself in the process. Days passed without us speaking. The silence felt heavy, louder than any argument we had ever had. I missed her more than I wanted to admit. I missed the way she understood me without words, the comfort of knowing someone was always there. But at the same time, the pain was still fresh. Forgiving too quickly felt like betraying my own feelings. One afternoon, I found myself rereading old messages between us. I smiled at some, teared up at others. Those messages reminded me that our friendship wasn't built on one mistake. It was built on countless moments of kindness, support, and honesty. That realization softened something inside me. I decided to reach out first. My hands were shaking as I typed her name, unsure of what to say. I kept it simple. "Can we talk?" It took a few minutes before she replied. But when she did, my heart raced. She said yes. We met at the park where we used to walk together. The place felt familiar yet strange, like returning to a home after a long absence. At first, we sat in silence. Then Sarah spoke. Her voice cracked as she apologized, not just for the misunderstanding, but for the pain it caused me. She didn't defend herself. She didn't shift the blame. She owned her mistake. That moment mattered more than I can explain. I realized forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means choosing understanding over resentment. I told her how deeply I was hurt, how broken I felt. She listened, just like she used to, and in that moment, I saw the friend I had missed so much. Tears were shed that day, by both of us. But they weren't tears of anger anymore. They were tears of healing. We didn't magically return to how things were before. Trust takes time to rebuild. But we made a promise to communicate better, to be more honest, and to protect the bond we shared. Walking home that evening, I felt lighter. Not because everything was perfect again, but because I had chosen peace over bitterness. I learned that forgiveness is not a gift you give to someone else. It's a gift you give to yourself. Our friendship wasn't the same after that day. It was stronger, deeper, and more real. It carried scars, yes, but also wisdom. And I finally understood that true friendship isn't about avoiding pain. It's about growing through it together. Looking back now, I realized that my friendship with Sarah changed me in ways I never expected. It wasn't just about having someone to talk to or laugh with. It was about learning who I am, how I love, and how I choose the people I keep in my life. Friendship, I learned, is not a perfect story. It's a real one. After everything we went through, our bond felt different, but in the best way possible. We were more careful with our words, more patient with each other's feelings. We no longer assumed, we communicated, and that made all the difference. I understood then that true friendship isn't measured by how long you've known someone, but by how willing you are to grow together. There were still quiet days when we didn't talk much, and busy weeks when life pulled us in different directions. But the connection remained. It was steady, secure. I no longer felt the need for constant reassurance because trust had been rebuilt through actions, not promises. One day, Sarah told me, "I'm grateful we didn't give up on each other." Her words stayed with me. Giving up would have been easier. Walking away would have saved time and energy. But staying, choosing forgiveness, choosing honesty, that required courage. And that courage turned our friendship into something rare and meaningful. I also learned an important lesson about myself. I learned that I am capable of loving deeply without losing myself. That setting boundaries doesn't mean pushing people away. It means protecting what matters. Friendship taught me balance, how to care without sacrificing my peace, how to be there for others while still honoring my own feelings. Now, when I think about friendship, I think of loyalty, honesty, and effort. I think of showing up, even when it's uncomfortable. I think of listening, even when it's hard. And most of all, I think of choosing kindness, again and again. Sarah and I may not know what the future holds. Life changes, people grow, paths shift. But no matter where we go, this friendship will always be part of my story. It taught me that the most meaningful connections are not the ones without flaws, but the ones that survive them. This story isn't just about Sarah. It's about everyone who has ever trusted someone, been hurt, forgiven, and loved again. It's about understanding that friendship is not found, it's built. And if I had to define friendship now, I'd say this. Friendship is choosing someone, not just on the easy days, but on the days when everything feels uncertain, and staying anyway. That is what friendship truly means to me.